For millions of people this week, this was the newspaper story. Elton John's manager allegedly beats up a newspaper reporter. This is Fleet Street, symbolic home of the British press. For the last 5 years in the Street of Shame, the tabloids have been splattering pop all over their pages. Hasn't always been that way though. Back in the 70s, the papers only touched pop in moments of national hysteria. But today, they all have their daily pop columns, even kiss and tell shock horror stories, forming breakfast table diet of rock and roll scandal for the whole family. Boy George is the tabloid star.
I think before Culture Club happened, there wasn't really anybody that was like sort of willing to sort of take on the media in the way that I was, you know, prepared to do. And I was really excited by it because I was, you know, I was quite young and it was all very new. I remember being at this award show and, you know, all this typical people were there, you know, from the media. And they were all with their cameras. And I remember thinking, if I go into the ladies' toilet, I bet you I get on the cover of The Sun. And I did, and I did. You know, so it was just like a game to me, you know. Unfortunately, it did backfire on me in a big way.
What was the moment you stopped writing your own headlines?
I think sort of when I got involved with drugs and stuff, and I just kind of didn't care about anything, you know. I suppose, to be honest, there was a part of me always that was a bit worried about what they might say about me. But when I became a junkie, I just didn't give a damn. You know, you realise after a while that you have to have a little bit of secrecy. You know, I mean, that's probably why people like George Michael, Michael Jackson, all those people probably do better than I do because it's much more controlled.
I just want to say one thing before we start because it'll make the whole thing a lot easier for everybody, which is just that I'm here as a musician to talk about the tour, which is obviously important for me because it's the first time I've ever played Europe, and to talk about the album and various aspects of my career. So I'm really open to any kind of questions like that. What I'm not here to do is to make a series of denials or admissions as to speculations about my private life. So with that in mind, I think anyone can ask me just about anything else. But any questions that I think invade my privacy will be studiously ignored. So.
2 weeks after this European press conference, one Sunday tabloid printed this headline. 2 years ago, Boy George was taken to the cleaners. This summer, George Michael is the marked man. Rumours abound that there's big money on the table for a story on George Michael's private life. The price of fame versus the price of privacy.
Pop stars are bigger stars than film stars. You know, you don't see an actor performing live in front of 100,000 people. But that's what pop stars do. You can go along to a concert at Wembley and you know, take part in a live event, seeing your hero with 70,000 people, which must be much more exciting than going to a theatre of, say, with 500 or 1,000 seats, or watching your hero on a screen. There's something about the quality of a pop star and the music that he does that makes him a more exciting person than simply an actor or an actress.
Michael Jackson's European tour starts next week. He won't even turn up at his own press conference, but no doubt the tabloids will be making Jacko more wacko by the day. Nearly 10 million tabloid newspapers are sold daily. As the circulation war gets hotter, the stories get wilder and more distorted. One ex-tabloid contributor explains.
Initially, I would ring up with story. I started ringing up with the odd story, and they encouraged me. Then it got to the stage where I would just ring up every few days with stories, phone them over direct to copy, write the story and dictate it over the telephone. But it transpired that the stories are always rewritten anyway into tabloid speak, so it seemed a bit of a waste of time me writing. So I just would ring the gossip columnist up direct, say, this is the story, are you interested? Give them the facts and they'd write it themselves, which was even easier money. Stars also use Fleet Street as much as Fleet Street uses them. And I think in Boy George's case, he used Fleet Street a lot initially to promote his career. And when they turned on him, I think he just had to accept that. I mean, unfortunately, they turned on him in a very malicious way. But, I mean, he must have known the risks when he first started courting Fleet Street, because he's not a naive person by any means.
One acquaintance of Boy George got £90,000 from a tabloid to spill the beans on his drug habit. Checkbook journalism has only recently concerned itself with pop.
You see, like people say, like these people that sell stories, they're to blame, but really they're goaded on by the media. I mean, the money's waved in front of their faces, and people are pathetic on the whole. People are really sort of weak. My friends for months were saying like they'd been offered money. Everybody I knew, everyone I knew had been offered like money. Because it was like, people knew that I was taking drugs, so it was like, there was a price on my head. And
How long did that build-up go on?
That went on for about 7 months.
I went into Fleet Street because Fleet Street is always sort of seen as the ultimate goal for a journalist, to find out what it was like as much as making money. And what I saw I didn't like, I wasn't suited to it. I don't have that so-called skill that the tabloid writers have of writing sensationalist, exaggerated stories. I can't do it.
The increase in pop coverage that saturates the daily papers goes hand in hand with the steady decline of the music fans' traditional source of information, the rock press.
This is Carnaby Street, where in the 60s they thought they were going to redress the world, but they ended up with the street of 1,000 bad shops. The New Musical Express, possibly the most influential rock magazine of the 70s, used to be based just over there until they moved out a couple of years ago. On the other side of the street, it's a very 1980s success story, with the magazine that outsells the combined circulations of all the other music papers and influences the tabloids. Smash hits.
I think the tabloid national press, its treatment of pop coverage is not very good, to be polite about it, because I think that what they do is they approach it from the same angle as they approach the rest of their newspaper. They approach it from a news angle. So that if they're looking for a front page lead or for their news stories, they tend to approach it in purely the tabloid press from a fairly sensational banner headline attitude. The most annoying thing for us and for some of the other pop magazines is that they tend to lift a lot of the stories, because a lot of pop artists will not actually speak to them, and rightly so, because of things they've said about them in the past. So therefore they have to resort to borrowing from smash hits and other magazines, which is unfortunate. But I think increasingly any evidence that we have here suggests that people are becoming sceptical of the stories that they read there.
All of us to blame, all pop stars, because we do sort of think we're more important than we are. I mean, that's the nature of our business, but I think the trouble is that the public on the whole are convinced that because you're famous you're better, or you're less sensitive, or you've got you're hard as nails, and people are just people.
Hello to me.
Is Alan Lewis there, please?
Who's that speaking?
It's Bernard Doherty from Rogers & Cowan.
Could you hold on a second?
After 2 decades in the business, Bernard Doherty is one of the heavyweight music publicists. Having handled PR for Live Aid, he now represents David Bowie, Paul McCartney, Tina Turner and Talking Heads. We asked him why the tabloids went for pop.
I suspect that some marketing man somewhere, or somebody from some research bureau went off and said, what you need, Mr. Tabloid Newspaper, is to target the youth audience, and because we'll get more advertising, and in order to get the kind of that end of the market, we need to bring in more of a pop coverage. And also, with the, if you like, the demise of Hollywood as a gossip area, that something had to replace it, and I think the rock stars of today have become similar to our movie stars of that era that I don't remember.
Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry?
Do you think that tabloid coverage at the time of the drugs exposure saved your life?
Made my life hell. Did nothing to help me at all. It made my life a nightmare. I think, I mean, it was almost like, see, what they don't realise is...
Did it make you want to retreat further into what?
No, it made me want to get more out of it.
Right.
It's like, where's the drugs?
Boy George has said to us that it made it worse for him, and that he felt he wanted to retreat into the drug further.
Well, yeah, he says that, but he was well aware of what he was doing with the media when his career began. He courted the media, he played the media for everything he could. But, you know, perhaps he wasn't aware, as most astute and wise pop personalities and showbiz characters are, that you don't control the media. If you want to play the game with them, you've got to be open about everything, the good as well as the bad.
I mean, I think they got me arrested, the papers. I absolutely think they got me charged.
It certainly looked like that.
Because, I mean, the charge against me has never been brought in anywhere in the world. No one's ever been charged with past possession of heroin. And the Daily Mirror put this article, a headline in saying, "Get him." Like as if I was some, like, fox, you know. It was just unbelievable. I mean, I remember seeing that and just thinking, what a bunch of... I think the best policy is just not to bother. You know, it's like, you know, when I go out and if anyone talks to me, I just go, hello, and I'm nice, and that's it. They can take pictures. I don't mind the photographers, you know, because they're like, you know, I mean, they're like the monkeys, aren't they, you know, on the organ.
What did you believe your relationship was with the press in the time that they adored you?
I didn't think I had any relationship with them whatsoever.
You're practically saying that...
I thought they were there to glorify me, basically, you know, to glorify my very being, you know. But then, you know, and I suppose for a lot of people in the business, like, getting their picture in the paper is proof that they're good. I suppose the advice I'd give them is to not believe that being on the cover of the Sun. I mean, you can murder someone and be on the cover of the Sun.
We were talking to Boy George there in the studio where he's been recording his new single, a scorching dance damnation of the impending government law, Clause 28. It's a horrendous piece of anti-gay legislation. The single's called Stop Clause 28, and we wish Boy George the best of luck. Follow me.